Greetings everyone. Today we're going to explore solving one-step multiplying and dividing equations. For this, you'll want the note sheet provided to you in class. If you don't have it, not a big deal. Just jot these down in your notebook. Let's go through some steps first. Now, these steps are very similar to the previous lesson. We want to first identify the operations in the equation. Meaning I just want you to look, what are you doing to the letter, the variable? Are you multiplying? Are you adding? As with our previous lesson, we still want to isolate the variable by using inverse operations. Remember that inverse operations undo each other. So far, these notes are exactly the same as the previous lesson. Now what we want to jot down and what's new and different is the inverse of multiplication, or how I undo it is I use division. And the opposite of division is going to be multiplication. Now just like previously, I want you to draw a line down the equal sign. If I take a look at the letter, the first thing I notice is the letter is being multiplied by 3. So instead of multiplying by 3, we are going to divide by 3. And remember, what I do to one side of the line, I do to the other side of the line. Think of it like a scale. If I take away 3 blocks from one side of the scale, I need to take away 3 blocks from the other side. A multiply and a divide by 3 are inverse. They cancel. The x falls down. And on the right side, I'm left with the calculation of 12 divided by 3. Example 2, let's draw a line down the equal sign. If I take a look at the x, right now I'm dividing the x by 5. So the opposite would be timesing by 5. What I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other side of the equation. Multiply and divide are inverses. They go away. The x falls down. And on the other side, I have a calculation of 4 times 5. All right, let's take a look at example 3. First, please draw a line down the equal sign. And let's see, what are we doing to the x? Be very careful on this one. Some of you are going to say subtract 7, but nope. What symbol goes between the number and the x? Technically, there's a dot there, right? We're saying -7 times x. So instead of multiplying by -7, we're going to divide by -7. So if it helps, I would recommend drawing that dot in there so you acknowledge what you're doing. A times -7 and a divide by -7 are inverse operations. The x falls down, the equals falls down. A positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 28 divided by 7 is 4. Let's take a look at example 4. I'm going to draw my line. If I look at the x, currently I'm dividing the x by 2. So the inverse would be, instead of dividing by 2, let's times both sides by 2. A divide 2 and a times 2 cancel. The x falls down. And on the other side, I have my calculation of 9 times 2. Here's another way we can write it. Draw a line down the equal sign. We can use a division symbol. Right now, I'm dividing the y by -3, and I want to do the inverse operation of multiplying by -3. Remember, you care about the letter side, the variable side. Don't move the 8. If you move the 8, it's empty, and whoop, there goes your scale. The y falls down. A positive times a negative is a negative, and 8 times 3 is our calculation of 24. Let's take a look at this one. Draw a line down the equal sign. What am I doing to the x right now? There's not a symbol there, but if I read it, it would read as -2 times x. So instead of timesing x by -2, we're going to divide by -2. Times and divide are inverse, cancels out. The x falls down. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and the calculation of 8 divided by 2 is 4. This one, maybe put a star by this one on your notes here, okay? This one is unique and special and often forgotten about. Draw a line down the equal sign. Take a look at that x. It looks like subtract x, but technically what number's in front? And I'm going to rewrite the entire problem. This actually means that there's a 1 in front of the x. And specifically, there's a negative in front of that 1. Okay, so what am I doing to the negative 1 and the x? I'm multiplying them. If they're written next to each other, that means multiply. So instead of times negative 1, we're going to divide both sides by negative 1. Multiply and divide are inverse. The x falls down. A positive 17 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 17. So see how all it did was change the sign in the end? But we need to make sure we know what we're doing. What does it mean when there's just a negative? It means there's a negative 1 there. Let's take a look at a few of these. You don't need to write these down. I'm just going to jump through them really quick. Instead of times by 12, let's divide by 12. And this is the amount of work that I would expect as well in your homework. Instead of divide by 4, times by 4. Instead of times by 36, divide by 36. Instead of divide by 13, times by 13. Oops, 65. Oops, there we go. Instead of divide by 2, we're going to times by 2. Instead of times by 25, we're going to divide by 25. Instead of divide by 2.5, we're going to times by 2.5. Instead of divide by 5.2, we're going to times by 5.2. We got 15.6. All right, so I wanted to zoom through these examples to show you the expectation of the amount of work, to show you that you can have fractions, decimals, large numbers, small numbers. All of those type of problems are what you're going to see in class. As always, make sure to check Google Classroom. What's our task for today? What do we need to accomplish? Take a look at PowerSchool. What are you missing? What do you need to work on? And until next time, have a good one.